Ladies and gentlemen, I want to tell you something today. Something powerful, something life-changing. The key is in your home. The answer you've been searching for, the peace you've been longing for, the strength you need. It's not far away. It's not buried in some distant land. It's not locked behind a door that only the rich, the powerful, or the educated can open. No, my friend, it is right where you are. How often do we search for meaning in the wrong places? People run to wealth, to fame, to relationships, hoping to fill that empty space inside. Some think if they could just travel a little farther, work a little harder, achieve a little more, then they would finally find what they're looking for. But let me tell you the truth. The answer has been right under your roof all along. The key is in your home. It's in the love of your family, the lessons passed down from generation to generation. It's in the quiet moments of prayer, when your heart whispers to God and He whispers back. It's in the faith that has stood the test of time. Some of you feel lost today. You think you're too far gone. You've looked everywhere for an answer and nothing satisfies. But I want you to hear me. God has already placed the key in your hands. He has given you His Word. He has given you His love. And He has given you a home, whether by blood or by faith, where you can find refuge and renewal. So stop searching in places that leave you empty. Stop believing the lie that the answers are out there somewhere. Look around you. Look within your heart. Look to the God who has never left your side. Because the key you need, the key to peace, to joy, to salvation, is not missing. It is in your home. And it has been there all along. We live in a world that tells us fulfillment is somewhere out there, beyond the horizon, in the next city, the next job, the next big achievement, always just out of reach, always promising satisfaction but never quite delivering, always making us believe that if we just had a little more, went a little further, did a little better, then we would finally be happy, finally feel complete, finally be at peace. But the truth is, fulfillment has never been about what's out there, never been about chasing something distant, because true fulfillment has always been closer than we think, closer than we realize, closer than we have dared to believe. And the secret is, it has been right where we are all along. Because true fulfillment begins at home, right within the four walls, where love is built, where faith is nurtured, where purpose is found, and where our hearts are meant to rest. Some spend their whole lives searching for meaning in places that will never satisfy, running from one thing to another, trying to fill a void that the world simply cannot fill, but they never stop to realize that the peace they long for is not in the noise of the world, but in the quiet moments at home, in the laughter of their children, in the embrace of their parents, in the wisdom of their grandparents, in the love shared around a dinner table, in the prayers whispered before bed, and the simple joys that too many overlook while chasing after the fleeting promises of the world that always seem to vanish just when we think we have grasped them. And it is only when we pause, only when we truly look at what we have been given, that we realize fulfillment was never about what we could acquire, but about what we have already been given. Because home is where love begins, where character is shaped, where faith is planted, and where we learn what truly matters in life. We have been conditioned to believe that success is measured in numbers, in titles, in possessions, in status, in the applause of others, in the validation of strangers, in the admiration of crowds. But true success, the kind that brings real fulfillment, is not found in a bank account, not found in fame, not found in power, but in the strength of our relationships, in the love we cultivate, in the family we cherish, in the values we uphold, in the legacy we leave behind, in the simple yet profound realization that we were never meant to find peace in the temporary things of this world, but in the eternal truths that have been with us since the beginning. Truths that are taught in the home, truths that are lived out in the home, truths that shape the heart and guide the soul towards something greater than anything the world could ever offer. There are those who spend their days feeling empty, feeling restless, feeling like something is missing, and they try to fill the emptiness with distractions, with entertainment, with busyness, with accomplishments, with anything that will make them feel like they are moving forward. But deep down, there is still a void, still a longing, still a hunger that nothing seems to satisfy, and they wonder why. They wonder what they are doing wrong. They wonder why, no matter how much they gain, how much they achieve, how much they experience, they are still left with that nagging feeling that something is missing. And the reason is simple. The reason is undeniable. The reason is unshakable, because they have been looking in the wrong places, because fulfillment was never out there, never in something external, never in something fleeting, but always in the things that last, in the things that endure, in the things that are built within the home, within the family, within the sacred space where love is real and faith is strong. The greatest joys in life are not found in grand stages, not found in the approval of millions, not found in the pursuit of endless ambition, but in the moments we often take for granted. The moments when a child reaches for a parent's hand, when a spouse looks into the eyes of the one they vowed to love forever, when an aging parent shares wisdom that has been passed down for generations, when the simple words, "I love you," are spoken and truly meant, when a family bows their heads in prayer, when forgiveness is given freely, when kindness is extended without condition, when sacrifice is made not for recognition but out of love. And it is in these moments, in these sacred, ordinary, extraordinary moments, that we find the fulfillment our hearts have been craving, that we realize the treasure we have been given, that we understand that the things the world calls small are actually the things that matter most. A house is just walls and a roof, but a home is something more, something deeper, something sacred, something built on love, on trust, on faith, on shared experiences, on the moments that shape us, on the lessons that guide us, on the truth that reminds us that we are not alone, that we are connected, that we belong, and in a world that constantly tries to pull us away, to make us believe that fulfillment is somewhere beyond our grasp, that we have to keep striving, keep running, keep chasing. We must remember that fulfillment was never meant to be found in something we have to reach for, but in something we are meant to return to, something we are meant to nurture, something we are meant to protect, something we are meant to cherish, because fulfillment is not in what we can gain, but in what we have already been given. And the greatest gift we have been given is the love that begins at home. If we build our homes with love, if we fill them with faith, if we nurture them with kindness, if we teach our children that they are valued, that they are loved, that they are created with purpose, if we remind ourselves daily that the measure of a life well lived is not in the things we accumulate, but in the love we share, if we understand that fulfillment is not a destination, but a way of living, then we will no longer feel the need to chase what does not satisfy. We will no longer be deceived by the empty promises of the world. We will no longer believe the lie that our worth is found anywhere but in the love we give and receive. And when we finally realize this, when we finally embrace this, when we finally choose to live this, then and only then will we find the fulfillment we have been searching for all along, the fulfillment that has been waiting for us, the fulfillment that has always been ours to claim. So let us not look to the world for what it cannot give. Let us not waste our days searching for what we already have. Let us not allow ourselves to be deceived into believing that fulfillment is something we must strive for, because the truth is, the peace we long for, the love we need, the joy we desire is not out there, is not beyond us, is not something we have to earn, but something we have already been given, something we have been entrusted with, something we must recognize, something we must cherish. Because true fulfillment, the kind that lasts, the kind that sustains, the kind that brings peace, that no storm can shake, begins not in the world, not in success, not in wealth, not in the applause of others, but in the place where love is real, where faith is nurtured, where hearts are shaped, where legacies are built, and that place, that sacred place, that most important place is home. From the moment you took your first breath, from the moment your heart began to beat, from the moment your soul entered this world, God has already placed within you everything you need, already written His purpose upon your life, already provided the strength, the wisdom, the love, the grace to walk the path he has set before you. Yet so many go searching, wandering, believing they lack something, believing they need more, believing they are incomplete, not realizing that the very things they seek, the very answers they long for, the very power they desire, have already placed inside of them, already been given by a loving Father who does not withhold, who does not abandon, who does not leave his children empty, but fills them, equips them, prepares them for the journey ahead. And all he asks is that we trust, that we believe, that we open our eyes to what has been given rather than chase after what was never meant to satisfy. We live in a world that constantly tells us we are not enough, tells us we need to earn, to prove, to fight for our worth, to seek validation in the approval of others, to find meaning and success in possessions, in achievements. But the truth is, before you ever spoke a word, before you ever did a single thing, before you ever accomplished anything, God already called you his, already declared you valuable, already gave you everything you need to fulfill the purpose he designed for you, already placed within you the gifts, the talents, the abilities, the divine calling that no one else can take away, that no circumstance can erase, that no failure can diminish. And yet so many live in fear, in doubt, in insecurity, believing they are lacking, believing they need something more, believing they must strive and struggle to be enough, when God has already said you are enough, because I made you, because I formed you, because I placed my spirit within you, because my grace is sufficient, because my love is unshakable, because I have already given you what you need. There are people who wake up every day feeling empty, feeling lost, feeling like they are searching for something they cannot find, looking to the world for answers, looking to people for affirmation, looking to temporary things for permanent fulfillment. And they do not realize that the reason they still feel empty, the reason they still feel unfulfilled, the reason they still feel like something is missing is because they are searching in the wrong places, looking outward when they should be looking upward, chasing after what was never meant to satisfy instead of embracing what has already been given. Because God has not left us helpless. God has not abandoned us to figure things out on our own. God has not placed us in this world without guidance, without provision, without direction, because he has already given us his word, already given us his promises, already given us his presence, already given us the ability to stand, to endure, to overcome, to walk in victory. But it is up to us to recognize what has been given, to stop doubting, to stop fearing, to stop believing the lie that we are not enough, when the truth is God's hand has been on us all along. How often do we pray for things God has already provided? How often do we ask for strength when he has already said, I am your strength? How often do we ask for peace when he has already said, my peace I give to you? How often do we ask for guidance when he has already said, I will direct your steps? How often do we ask for love when he has already shown us the greatest love of all? How often do we ask for blessings when every breath we take, every sunrise we see, every moment of grace we experience is already a blessing beyond measure? Yet we live as if we are still waiting, as if we are still lacking, as if God has not already poured out his goodness, his mercy, his provision, his abundance upon us, as if we are still empty when he has already filled us, as if we are still searching when he has already found us, as if we are still in need when he has already given us everything we need for life, for godliness, for the purpose he has called us to walk in. There are people who think they cannot move forward, who think they cannot accomplish what God has placed in their hearts, who think they do not have what it takes, who think they are too weak, too broken, too flawed to fulfill the calling upon their lives. But if they could only see what God sees, if they could only understand that they are not lacking, if they could only believe that they have already been equipped, that the doors that need to open will open in his time, that the strength they need will be provided as they step forward, that the wisdom they lack will be given when they ask, that the faith they long for will grow as they trust, that the grace they depend on will never run out, that the power they seek is already inside them because God has placed his spirit within them, then they would no longer live in fear, no longer hesitate, no longer shrink back, but would rise up, would walk boldly, would live with confidence, knowing that the one who calls them is faithful, that the one who created them has already given them what they need. Some of you are waiting for a sign, waiting for confirmation, waiting for something to change before you believe, before you step forward, before you take hold of what God has already promised. But the truth is, you do not need to wait for what has already been given. You do not need to seek what has already been placed in your hands. You do not need to hesitate when God has already said, go, because everything you need to fulfill your purpose, everything you need to overcome your battles, everything you need to walk in victory has already been provided, already been prepared, already been established. And the only thing standing in the way is not God's lack of provision, not God's lack of power, not God's unwillingness to bless, but our own doubt, our own fear, our own hesitation to believe that He is who He says He is, that He will do what He says He will do, that He is faithful, that He is able, that He has already given us all that we need. When we stop searching for what we already have, when we stop striving for what has already been freely given, when we stop doubting the goodness of God, when we stop living as if we are still waiting for something more, we will begin to walk in the fullness of His promises. We will begin to live with boldness, with purpose, with confidence, with unshakable faith, because we will no longer be asking for what has already been provided, no longer chasing after what has already been given, no longer living as if we are in lack, when we have been given abundance. And when we begin to live with this truth, when we begin to believe that God's provision is already here, that His grace is already sufficient, that His power is already at work, that His promises are already ours, then we will no longer live in fear, no longer hesitate, no longer shrink back, but will rise up, will step forward, will take hold of the life He has called us to live with the full assurance that God has already given us everything we need. So today, let us stop doubting, let us stop waiting, let us stop believing the lie that we are missing something, because God has already provided, God has already supplied, God has already answered, God has already declared that we are chosen, that we are equipped, that we are ready, and all that is left is for us to believe, to trust, to step out in faith, to walk in confidence, to declare with boldness that we are not lacking, that we are not waiting, that we are not searching, but that we are standing in the fullness of what God has already given, because we are His, because He is faithful, because His promises are true, because His power is within us, and because everything we need, everything we will ever need, has already been given by the one who loves us beyond measure, by the one who calls us His own, by the one who has never failed and never will.